Darty here today?
I believe he's sick today.
Oh, I thought I saw him coming into the building.
Email.
You may now call it to order, Madam Mayor. Call the meeting to order.
We'll call it to order now?
Sure.
Okay. I'll call to order the December 13th joint meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Glendale Housing Authority. Roll call, please, for council.
Council members Garpetian.
Here.
Jarian.
Here.
Sinanian. Here. Mayor Devine.
Here. And Housing Authority?
Authority members Devine.
Here.
Garpetian.
Here.
Kelly. Jarian.
Here.
Farazian.
Here.
Chair Sinanian.
Here.
Thank you. Next.
The agenda for the December 13, 2016 joint public meeting of the City Council and the Housing Authority was posted on Friday, December 9, 2016 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. First item before you is service award presentation to Patrick Doherty, Community Development Department.
Okay, and we have a full house here for Mr. Doherty. Jan Edwards. All right, Director of Planning.
Come on up, Pat.
Jan.
I have a little bit of background to fill you in. We're here to celebrate Pat Doherty's 30 years of service to the city of Glendale. Pat grew up in the heart of Los Angeles near Wilshire and Crenshaw and attended Loyola High School where he played football and basketball. Pat grew up being the only boy in the family surrounded by 6 sisters, which probably explains his high regard for women and his strong feelings about equality and opportunities for women. After graduating high school, he applied to attend Georgetown University and made it to their waiting list. While waiting, he applied and was accepted to the University of San Francisco. And although he didn't play sports in college, he continued his love of athletics by running, lifting weights, playing street basketball and beach volleyball, biking, and of course, surfing. In fact, Pat's picture ended up in a book about California surfing spots while surfing in Hermosa Beach. He lasted a year and a half at USF before moving back to Southern California and attending Valley College as Vietnam raged on. Although he wanted to be a framer, his early construction assignments found him doing a lot of plumbing work and eventually invited into the Plumbers Union doing work on all kinds of special projects. Pat has 2 children, a son Cyrus from his first marriage and his 11-year-old daughter Riley with the love of his life, Tara. Tara is a middle school English teacher as well as teaching English at Valley College. Pat currently lives in the Santa Clarita Valley where he gets to watch Riley continue his love of sports as she competes in soccer, swimming, and club volleyball. Although he also loves the cooking skills she is getting from her mom. So, how did Pat end up coming to Glendale? In between plumbing jobs, Pat saw an ad in the LA Times for a plumbing inspector opening for the city of Glendale. Thinking that it might be an interesting diversion for a year or two, he submitted his application in February 1986, did an outstanding job on the testing, and finally got hired in December of that year. The rest is history, and he has been with Building and Safety ever since. After 28 years in the field and not content to be just an inspector, forever, Pat applied for and became the first inspector to transition into the plan check team when he was promoted to Building Code Specialist 2. Although he is still going back and forth between helping in inspection and handling a majority of the plumbing and mechanical plan review, his knees are still thanking him for the switch. During his 30 years with Glendale, Pat has served on IAPMO committees for updating the plumbing and mechanical codes. He is very articulate, well-read, and a very dedicated individual who is respected by all who work with him. Pat has both technical code knowledge and an ability to use common sense in applying the code. He has an exceptional old-school work ethic and is exceptional in understanding the issues faced by contractors trying to construct today's complex structures and working with them to develop practical solutions as issues arise. We're constantly benefiting from Pat's in the office as we train our younger staff because of his history of the profession and of our organization. I am proud to have Pat as part of the building and safety team and appreciate all that he does for us, both technically and as mentor and friend to the rest of our team. Congratulations, Pat.
Thank you.
Well, I think, Pat, we can add to respected, well-respected. I think we can add beloved by the turnout here today and the enthusiasm of those that you work with. You must be a very positive influence and impact on their lives and their jobs. And so we appreciate that very, very much. So it is Christmas, so we have a few items for you, and I will read first the 30-year service award that you'll be receiving. The certificate is an expression of sincere appreciation for 30 years of loyal and faithful service. May the future bring you a full measure of those endowments which long service and devotion to duty so richly deserved. We even framed it for you. That's special, Patrick. That's special. We also have a gift and several gifts. So if I can get some help from my fellow, I'll bring it down with. Sorry. This.
Thank you.
Like to say a few words?
I would.
Oh, I almost walked on.
You must know what it is. Yeah, well, I would like to say that right now, in the 30 years that I've worked here, that this is the best management team we've ever had. They motivate the employees. Scott came in at a terrible time and stanched a lot of the bleeding and made things work. And I attribute that to several things. Scott went around and met with everybody, figured out what everybody was doing, studied the organization, and really knew before he did anything what he needed to do. And that's gone down the line. And I'd particularly like to recognize Phil, Jan Edwards, and Jan Baer. They have been able to motivate people to do more with less. And of course, everything comes down from the top. So thank you, guys.
Any other comments? Councilmember Najarian?
Well, although this is 30 years, I hope this is not going to be close to your retirement. You've got a beautiful young daughter who's 11, and she's got college ahead of her. So we hope to have you for at least another 10 years, and we appreciate your great work to the city. Thank you very much.
Yes, now we know who's the most famous and likable employee in our city. I mean, look at the amount of people who are here. And you survived living with 6 sisters. I have 2. I used to get into a lot of fights with boys who wanted to take my sisters out, and I don't know how you handled it. So congratulations to you, and wish you all the best.
Welcome. Okay.
Congratulations again. Through 30 years, that shows a mutual commitment from you and the city of Glendale, and I hope that relationship continues for as long as you want it to. So congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Or Patrick. Okay, so we'll move on to the, you want to applaud one more time? And we'll give you a few minutes if you want to exit. Take a little break.
Madam Mayor, while folks are exiting,
Yes.
I just wanted an announcement for the council.
Okay.
There was the Kenwood item that's on this evening's agenda. One of the notices indicated it would be at the 3 o'clock meeting. So if anybody's here or watching because of that, that is at 6 o'clock tonight.
Okay.
Just wanted to state that for the record.
Okay, and we'll move on to the next item.
Madam Mayor and Council, next item is Director of Community Development regarding request to note and file the fiscal year 2015-16 Low Moderate Income Housing Asset Fund Annual Report. 2A is council motion to note and file the fiscal year 2015-16 LMIHAF Annual Report in accordance with California Health and Safety Code 34176.1F.
Thank you. Mr. Ochoa?
Yes, ma'am. This is a rather mundane annual filing that we need to do, and I think maybe we can make better use of the time having Peter Zovak, our housing deputy director, come up and talk a little bit, not just about what this fund is, but how rather this fund actually plays into the larger affordable housing strategy for city of Glendale. This is a note and file report. This is something we just have to do every year, but as I say, Peter will be able to give you a much more comprehensive view on something that this council has expressed, this housing authority has expressed as a major priority for this community. So with that, Peter?
I was just checking with the city attorney to make sure that was okay to go that deep in the report.
We're going to say Mike Garcia, enemy of fun, right there, right, boom.
Madam Mayor, members of the council and housing authority, this is a joint report, but the only action on the item is really a city council action, and that's a motion to note and file. And it's a motion to request to note and file the fiscal year 2015-2016 Low and Moderate Income Housing Asset Fund report. The LMIHAF report, as it's called, is an annual report, and it's a new report required by the state, and it's in response to the elimination of redevelopment back in 2012, and the state taking back redevelopment funding as well as funding set aside for affordable housing. And really what it is it's a report on the use of affordable housing funds that we were able to keep, and it's a dwindling pot of money that we were able to keep, and yet the state still wants us to report on that dwindling pot every year and what accomplishments we might have and expenditures we might have over the next 10-year period is what it is, really.
But they could take credit for it, ostensibly.
Exactly. This report is generated based upon audit work conducted by our finance department, and it's included in the comprehensive annual financial plan report that's being presented to you tonight at the 6 p.m. meeting for adoption. So it's based on all those numbers that's prepared by the finance department. It provides a simple summary of activities of expenditures and deposits made in and out of the fund for the 2015-16 fiscal year, and it performs a few tests on the expenditures and some of the assets that we hold. The report does indicate, this year's report that we're submitting does indicate that the city is in compliance with the requirements of the law, and we are asking for council direction to transmit it to the state. Just a couple of items of note. Over the fiscal year, 2015-16 fiscal year, approximately $1.9 million was deposited into the fund. Some of that money came back from a recapture of some funding involving 2 projects. There was also some money that was repaid as part of the redevelopment loan, city loan repayment, and then some program income that we generate annually as well. So that makes up the $1.9 million that was deposited. It wasn't new money coming from the state. It was just some of the existing obligations that were coming to us in terms of revenue. At the end of the fiscal year, the fund balance for that particular fund was at $9.6 million. That represents approximately $6 million in land being held by the Housing Authority for future use of affordable housing. That's the 5th and Sonora property, and about approximately $3.6 million in cash on hand. We've expended in the fiscal year approximately $1.2 million. A lot of those expenditures came on the ACE 121 project, and then, of course, our approved annual admin budget as well. There's a section in the report that talks about our first-time homebuyer loan portfolio. For the fiscal year, our loan portfolio at the beginning was 119 outstanding loans out there in our first-time homebuyer program. And at the end of the fiscal year, 3 loans were removed from that portfolio, not because they were lost per se, but they are homes that sold during the year, and then the participants paid back the Housing Authority loans on the property, and that went into program income. The city did comply with the state's senior housing test, which is a test to ensure that cities are developing all household types of affordable housing, and not just going with the most simple in most communities, senior housing, that the portfolio is being diversified and what's being developed is diversified. So they take a past 10 years snapshot of what's been produced in terms of senior housing versus non-senior housing, and they've set a threshold of 50% not to exceed that, and we're well below that at just over 4%. So that's the basis of the report. So if you have any questions, I can talk to you about that or answer those. And then generally, I can just briefly touch on some of the things that Mr. Ochoa had mentioned as well. Any questions on the report, the numbers?
I had a question about the excess, the surplus. We're okay with the surplus. We don't have one because, to our credit, we spend our money on affordable housing and what projects in the community.
Yes, that is true, and it's a test that the city has the state has to prevent cities from just holding the money, not expending it on affordable housing. And we've never had that issue since the inception of the redevelopment program. Okay, so with that, then, that takes a snapshot of where we were at the end of the fiscal year of 2015-16. So where are we now? I had mentioned that our balance of cash of assets on hand at the end of the fiscal year was about $9.6 million, $6 million in land, about $3.6 million in cash. At this point in time, that $3.6 million in cash has risen to about $5.5 million, the low mod income housing asset fund. We also have approximately just over $1.5 million in home funds that we can use to develop a project. And we received some program income that we've placed into our Affordable Housing Trust Fund of about $1 million. So if a project was to come on today or tomorrow, and the question were to come up, how much money do we have for our next affordable housing project? We'd have approximately about $8 million to support a project or number of projects moving forward beginning tomorrow. In the near future, though, we expect to expand that greatly. We do have some bond proceeds that are at the state level and just waiting to be issued for the next available project that would need it, to the tune of about $7.5 million. We expect another approximately $2 million in a redevelopment loan repayment coming back to us next year. There is some settlement money from a few of our previous projects related to the ADIs that we expect to come in. Those numbers can vary. A conservative approach might be about $2.5 million. And there's some miscellaneous program income. If you recall, there have been a couple of refinancings of some existing buildings, Park Paseo, Maple Park, that will generate some payments back to us. We expect one of those to come in next year, along with our annual addition of some home funding. So we expect about $12 million in new money next year, so a total of about $20 million that we plan to, or we have the ability to develop on future projects.
We could just find the property, right?
Well, that's the next step. What are those projects? And we plan to come back to you in the new year, along with some other discussions that we plan on having you with regards to policy. If you recall the discussions we had on the 8-point strategy to address the lack of affordable housing, there are a couple of items that need to come back to you with regards to some possible development impact fees, inclusionary zoning citywide, and some of those other policies. In that time frame, we also plan to come back to talk about what our next possible projects can be. We do have some developers that have expressed some interest in some projects that they are working on, haven't yet submitted anything yet. We'd like to be able to have some of those proposals in by then and present them to you. We'd like to get some feedback from you all as to what priorities it is that you would like to serve, what areas of the cities you'd like us to look in, and then generally come to terms with what type of strategy you'd want us to pursue in identifying those next projects. And hopefully not just to simply spend the approximate $20 million out there, but leverage with other sources. So rather than have 2 projects that take up the full 20, maybe we could stretch it so that we have 6 or 7 projects that are leveraging other sources of funds that we can stretch out. So 2017 is going to be a busy year.
Well,
and seen.
Well, I commend you for the job that you're doing there. This is a very positive report, and I look forward to planning, to looking ahead in our projects for next year. Excellent. Anyone else have a comment? Okay. Then I need a motion
So moved.
to note file. So moved. Second?
Second.
And roll call.
Councilmembers Garpetian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Sinanian,
Yes.
Mayor Devine.
Yes. Next item?
Next item is adjournments for council and authority.
So moved. For council?
Second.
We are adjourned at 4:45.
We need a motion for,
Oh, and
Authority.
authority. Thank you.
So moved.
Second? Second. Roll call? Oh, we don't need roll call. Thank you very much. We are adjourned at 4:45.